Make sure you're getting that for yourself, trying it out, and even doing just a couple workouts if you're planning on doing it with the rest of us who are doing our customer launch and starting the 26th. But it is out now, so you can go ahead and get it. And just remember, you can always do challenge packs now as coaches, or completion packs. We didn't used to be able to do that. So it's a great option. If you don't have both 2B Mindset and Ultimate Portion Fix, definitely consider doing a completion pack, or not consider, you probably should do a completion pack. But like my BOD's up in December, so I'm just probably going to go ahead and get a whole new challenge pack, because why not do it now? So stuff like that, just remember you have that option. The 30-day breakaway is live. Am I missing anything, Kayla? Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to shoot it over to Courtney. So I'm really excited. I wanted to get someone on here to talk to you guys about like storytelling and sharing your story, and kind of the importance of that, and how that is how our businesses are built. So I'm really excited. We connected in our roundtable group, which is for 5-star and up coaches. So Courtney is currently a 5-star diamond, but her team is in 6-star qual, which is incredible. We know on this team how quals are super fun. She's a Success Club legend, which means she has hit Success Club consecutively for at least 24 months, probably more. Her team cup. So you guys, we just went through Team Cup in August. If you remember, a bunch of us did that. Her Team Cup team finished 2nd place overall in the company. So that is killer. That means they were showing up. They had tons of rank advancements, lots of Success Club points. That is super, super awesome. They'll get to walk the stage at Summit. I can't even remember what the prize is, but I'm sure it was awesome. So that's really fun and exciting. So congrats on that. She was this year Premier Coach, so a 2020 Premier Coach, and has already locked in Elite for 2021. So congrats on that and your team. And yeah, she's the founder of Team Confidence Crew. So Courtney, I'm going to pass it over to you. Again, I'm going to mute myself and turn the camera off until we pop in at the end. So, and let's just get it going. All right, take it over, girl.
All right, thank you guys so much for having me. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I'm so excited to be here. And we just moved into this house on Thursday, so I totally had my team call last night, and I was like, if you hear hammering and like putting furniture together, I know all about that life. So totally know how you feel right now. It's chaos. Like, that's the only word for it. But hi guys, I am Courtney Harden. I have been coaching for a little over 4 years. I signed up to coach in March of 2016. But I always say I didn't really start coaching until like officially actually know what coaching was until I attended Summit in 2017. So literally a year and a half after I actually signed up to be a coach is when I officially think that I started really diving into what it means to be a coach. And I'll kind of talk about that in my story a little bit later, but I started coaching for 4 main reasons. One is I grew up an athlete. I love to work out. I love fitness of all kinds, and that doesn't have to be part of your story. And I tell everyone this on my sneak peeks on my team, like this is that's my story, is that I genuinely love to work out. But that being said, I was horrible at nutrition, and I grew into a pretty bad emotional eater. And, you know, anytime I would work out, I felt like I deserved to eat whatever I want. Or, you know, I grew just into this really bad relationship with food, and eventually into a pretty bad emotional eater. And so that was reason number 1 why I signed up, is I just wanted to learn more about nutrition. I wanted to get control on my emotional eating and my mental health before I really needed to focus on my physical health. So for me, the number 1 reason was the mental health part of health, nutrition, fitness, not punishing myself with workouts because of something I ate, but actually genuinely working out of joy. So that was reason number 1. Reason number 2 is pretty simple. I just wanted to help friends and family. I had especially my immediate family. I had a couple of family members that were very, very unhealthy, and so I wanted to help them. I helped my dad lose 30 pounds in my first 30 days as a coach, and something I'm still very proud of today. So that was reason number 2. Reason number 3 was the financial side of things. I saw the potential with this. I'm a middle child of 3, so I have always grown up getting the hand-me-downs of literally everything, and so I always got the hand-me-down car, and while it was great that I never had a car payment, I always had cars that would break down. Like I had cars that you had to like bungee cord them shut in order to keep the driver's door shut. I had cars that didn't, that when I took off from my parents' house, the hubcaps fell off. I'm like getting them from Matilda's dad over here, like awful, awful cars. And so when my husband and I moved to Tulsa, we're originally from the mid-Missouri area. We moved to Tulsa about 6 years ago. I knew that I wanted to have a car that was reliable to get me to and from visiting friends, to and from visiting family, which is about a 6-hour minimum drive. And so with that came a reliable car payment. And I knew that if there was something that I could do to not be so stressed out about every payment or every little thing that came in and out of our bank account, I knew there was something that I needed to do about it. And I thought that coaching could be that for me, and it did. But that was reason number 3, was I just wanted the relief from the financial anxiety that I kind of struggled with my whole life, of like being super frugal and only shopping in clearance sections. And I just wanted that relief of not feeling so stressed out about finances. So that was reason number 3. Reason number 4 is I'm an event planner here. I still work a full-time 40, sometimes 50, sometimes 60-hour job. I work for a large Marriott hotel, and it's stressful. And then I would come home at the end of the day and be super unfulfilled. And still, to this day, I still work it. I still came home today and I was like, why? Like, obviously I know why, but I just would come home and be like, this is not what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. Right now I'm making them both work because it works for our family, but I just knew that it was not something that was going to help me grow as a woman, help me grow as a mentor, and be this like leader that I kind of knew was always down there. It was mediocre, and I was living in this corporate world where I'd come home and just feel like a mediocre average human every single day. And I knew I needed something that was going to push me out of my comfort zone and just get me to level up, honestly. So those are my 4 main reasons. So I'm going to talk a little bit about storytelling and kind of give you guys some examples of what some of my posts look like. Obviously, and this doesn't happen in every single one of my posts, but for a lot of my posts, I try to paint a picture for my followers. I try to have them go on this journey with me of social media. And I have a lot of times people ask me, whatever happened to this and this of that part of my story. So I will, and don't get me wrong, you guys, I used to tell everyone, like, I have no story. I have no like rags to riches. I have no like hardships. Like, I literally married the first guy I ever dated, which we started dating when I was 20. So like, I never had a breakup. Like, I've never had hardship. Well, I don't say that to like brag by any means. I use that as an excuse a lot of times of like, okay, I don't have this like amazing story, but I realized once I started diving in to personal development, and I'll give my recommendations at the end, but once I started diving into personal development where they would tell their stories, it sparked a lot of memories of like my childhood and things that got me to where I am today, which can easily be turned into part of your personality, part of why you're here right now on this call tonight. So I always say that, you know, I learned about storytelling actually from Bonnie Engel. She did a training call one time and she said, okay, there's 3 different types of emotions that you want to provoke. They call it the angel's cocktail. It's made up of dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. Basically, how I no offense, but dumb those down as in like kindergarten speak is you want to inspire, you want to educate, and you want to entertain. Those 3 topics, those 3 characteristics are what your goals should be with every storytelling post. How am I increasing focus, motivation, and memory? That's the inspiration. How am I inspiring someone with this story? The second one, educate. How am I providing value with this story? How am I educating someone from my story that they can then take to theirs and be like, okay, I'm not the only one. And then the last one is entertain. How can you make someone laugh? How can you, are you a good singer? Are you helping people release those endorphins that make them want to keep following you? So those are the 3 things. So I'm going to give an example of my own stories in the 3. So inspire, educate, entertain. So the first one, inspire. Okay, y'all, first job out of college. I had just gotten back from lunch break. I walk into my office and my boss calls me on my phone and says, I need to see you in my office. I'm like, oh shit. Like, oh no, like what's happening? I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? Like, okay, so I walk in there and my boss is like, so I got on your computer and saw that you were searching for other jobs while on the job. So you're fired. And that was not me. It was my supervisor who was searching for other jobs, but he did not ask questions. He just fired me on the spot. So when I leave you with that story, it makes you want to know more. And so I call it micro story. Picking a story within a story is so important to you because storytelling can be very long. It can be very, very, very long. Once you start to make a post and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is part of my story, but it can be like 12 paragraphs long and you're like, all right, I need to pick a micro story inside of this story that I can tell that won't have people swiping away because the caption got 12 paragraphs long, but that is also gonna grab attention. So micro storying inside of your story is very important to know as well. And then also knowing that you don't have to tie every single thing back to your health and fitness journey or your coach story. You don't have to tie everything back into that, but some of your story needs to tie back into that. That's why you're a coach in the first place. Okay, so here is a education story. So I was sitting on my back patio and I was pregnant. Nobody knew that I was pregnant besides my husband. He had just left for his annual golf tournament and I was on the back patio one morning watching a funny video on, just scrolling social media, watching a funny video on Facebook. When I stood up to go get breakfast, I felt a huge gush of blood. I ran to the bathroom and passed out and thought that the worst case scenario had happened. Called my doctor, it was a Saturday morning, called the on-call doctor, and she said, it's likely a miscarriage. You have to wait till Monday to come in. And at that time, we thought we had miscarried. So I went all weekend, Saturday to Monday, thinking that I had miscarried because that's what she told me. And Monday came and we still had a heartbeat. We still had a baby. And so educating women to know that sometimes it can be worst case scenario, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes blood clots like that just happen. And they're really a lot more common than I ever thought. Once I shared that story with my followers, I had a flood of women, and you have to be careful, of course, but I had a flood of women that were like, I am so glad you posted this story. I had the exact same thing happen to me, and I wish I would have known that this could happen before this, so that all of those emotions weren't 100% necessary. So that's an example of an education story. But you guys, I want you to know, like, the most important part of that piece is to paint the picture. I'm gonna say that probably like 10 more times. Like, you guys probably were sitting on my back patio with me, like painting that picture of, you know, I have Energize in my hand, or, you know, whatever scene you need to portray. Definitely try to do that as much as possible. And then endorphins one. So I love telling this story. So I was about 8 years old, and we lived in this 3-story house on a gravel road in like BFE, Holt Summit, Missouri, which I'm sure 0 people on this call have heard of. It was my favorite childhood house, gravel road. We lived down this big hill, and our house sat at the bottom of the road. Okay, so I'm riding my bike down this hill, and I'm riding on the grassy part of it, and there's a dip in the middle. And I knew that. I was like, I got this. Like, I know there's a dip. I'm gonna like ride my bike as fast as I can down this hill, and I'm gonna jump this dip. Like, I'm just gonna jump it. Like, I'm gonna get some air over here. And my 10-year-old self, or however old I was riding this bike down the hill. I get to the dip, and my handlebars, we didn't have enough money at the time, I guess, to afford handlebars that had rubber on the end. So my handlebars were made of straight metal, and I went straight into the handlebars. And I now forever will have a half moon shaped scar on my rib cage from that attempt to jump that dip in my yard. So just a funny story like that, or a, you know, like set the scene, like kind of like good mood story is what gets people's endorphins going and gets people to just get to know you. I mean, that's really what storytelling you want to happen with storytelling. And you know, it's with you have your storytelling, like the story I just told, has no real function other than it just gets your followers to know you. And then you have your storytelling, which is going to be tied back into a coach sneak peek, or your challenge group coming up, or whatever. That's what we call functional storytelling. And I'll give an example of that in just 1 second as well. So I want you guys to write down stories you tell about specific things in your life, like how you met your husband, how or why you started coaching, what's your favorite thing about, sorry, hold on. Ooh. What's your favorite thing about your dog, your kids, and then categorize them. Those are just like 3 examples. Categorize these stories that you like to tell all the time anyway, that you don't ever really think of as being stories, and categorize them in the Angel's Cocktail. So educate, inspire, entertain, and categorize those in those categories. Okay, and then on top of that, you're going to have your sub lists. So on top of the stories that you like to tell all the time, you're going to have sub lists of what it is you do as a coach. So workouts, fitness, health, nutrition, that's going to be a sub list, and you're going to write down your stories with that. So at the beginning, you heard me talk about how I love to work out. funny story that I really like to tell is that I'm pretty sure my dad was really hoping that I was a boy because I was the second girl. So I was put in every sport you could imagine. That is part of my fitness journey and why I love fitness so much. But that's a story. That's a simple story of like, that's silly and funny and whatever. Talk about like your story with Shakeology. That's a important one to share also. For me, I completely stopped drinking coffee when I started drinking Shakeology. So something so simple as that, like, and I always like to start my story posts with like a hook. This is kind of an important tip, is to start with a hook, because I always like to reel people in. So for example, one post that I have that is my Shakeology story is, I'll take that coffee, or I'll take that creamer with a little coffee, please. And that's how I used to drink my coffee, because I hate the taste of coffee anyway. This is true. I hate the taste of coffee, so much so that I was masking it with so much cream and sugar that it was no longer healthy in the least bit, and I was making it super unhealthy. So when I found that replacement with Shakeology, I no longer felt the need to drink any coffee. So just a small example that can be tied back into a story. Another funny one is that, think of like little things that might kind of set you apart. Like for me, I wake up every morning around like 5:30, get my workout in about 6. And I realized the other day, I was like, I wonder if it's weird that I don't brush my teeth before I work out. I'm like, I don't know if other people do, but like, I just don't brush my teeth. I brush them after I drink Energize, after I work out. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that could be a funny little story that other people could be like, oh yeah, me either. I don't, I don't do that either. If you do morning workouts, hopefully you brush your teeth before an evening workout. Anyway, so, yeah, so let's see what else. So, okay, so another like example of like a sub list is business. So workout, fitness, Shakeology, and business, how you can tie that story back into business. So here's another example. Instead of saying like, I'm looking for this person and this person who's motivated and high driven, like instead of saying that, you can start it with, I absolutely lost it on my husband when he bought a $60 pair of joggers. $60 pair of joggers, like I lost it on him because I struggled really bad with financial anxiety. And anytime money came in and out of our bank account, like I said at the beginning, true story, we had a huge argument because he bought $60 joggers without telling me. And that can easily be tied back into, I started this business for the relief of financial stress on our family, and getting in arguments like that. Like that is such a simple story that can be tied back into the business. And then don't forget to watch your language in your posts. So a lot of times it can easily get misconstrued of like, you need to work on your dreams. You need to follow your, work on your goals, or follow your dreams, follow your visions. And I want you guys to remember that you always want to leave your social media of what can they learn from my social media versus look at me. So I always, anytime I'm typing out a post, I'm like, okay, how can they learn from this versus learn from me, look at me. Just make sure you're always thinking about that. So preaching or teaching, kind of the same thing. Are you preaching at people, or are you teaching them something while you're posting at the same time? Okay. Yeah, and instead of saying like you, start off maybe with saying like, I remember a time when, or today when I blank. One time I used to think, so that way it ties back into your story, but is teaching them, not preaching them. Okay. And then one thing that I always try to remember too is that I always try to evoke some sort of emotion. So anytime that I'm typing out a post, I'm like, okay, how is this going to make my followers feel? Are they going to feel motivated? Are they going to feel inspired? Are they going to feel happy? Or are they going to feel sad about this post? Even if sometimes it is sad, sometimes people need to know that you struggle too. I think that was one of the main things I took away from Brendan Burchard is he actually recommended you writing down some major struggles that you've had in your life and then writing stories around those too, because like I said, it is so rewarding at the end of the day when you get a message in your inbox that says, wow, thank you so much for posting that. I really needed to hear that today. Or thank you so much for posting that. I am going through the exact same thing. So just a moment of vulnerability is definitely so helpful. And it takes away all of your feelings about selling. So anytime you're like, oh, this post is really like, feels just like, oh, it takes away all of that when you are putting out your vulnerabilities in hopes that people can just relate, can just be relatable to you. So every post does not have to have a point. Like I said at the beginning, like that post of, or in the middle, the post of me riding my bike down a hill, that really didn't have a point. It just got followers to get to know me a little bit more, get to know my childhood, or like set a scene. It didn't really have any sort of point. But okay, and then I want to leave with one more story example. One second, pull it up. Okay, so I'm just going to read it from my post. A crash came from the kitchen and we rushed in to see my sister laying in a pile of broken dishes. Climbing countertops to reach the top shelf was kind of our thing. This time though, she had used the door of the cabinet to pull herself up and the whole thing came toppling down on top of her. I'll never forget the little lip that separated the wood floor hallway from the tile kitchen that I stubbed my toe on 8 million times it felt. Made me stronger. Or the way the yard dipped just enough for me to crash my bike, leaving me with a permanent moon-shaped scar on my rib cage. Or my sister's room that she painted a bright orange. The NSYNC poster I had taped to the back of my door. And the moment I realized I don't actually sound like Britney Spears. Heartbreaking. The house that built me. There's a million little things and events I can remember that happened in our childhood home, and a million little features I loved, or loathed, I guess, while watching Miles, which is my son's name, while watching Miles walk around in our soon-to-be home yesterday, checking out all the updates with his hands on his hips. I know this is where he'll create some of his first memories too, and we don't want every little detail perfect, but just perfect for us. It's hard to imagine if this would be possible without coaching. I currently do still indeed work a full-time job, but I just took not one, but 2 separate pay cuts during this COVID season. I'm not sure, but if the extra income keeps us continuing on stress-free, living our lives the best we can, and creating more memories, then I'll take it. Want to know more? We're doing a sneak peek tomorrow. So just something so simple about the house that we just built, the house that I grew up in, is so, like that. I would have never thought, that's not part of my story. Like that's not, that's not like I said at the beginning, that's not a rags to riches. That's not I wasn't homeless. Like I just like I felt that I didn't have this insanely struggle story. And after listening to a lot of personal development and Kendra Hall stories that stick, y'all, everybody has a freaking story about something. So that's my #1 personal development recommendation is stories that stick. Kendra Hall, which she spoke at Summit too, so she was awesome. And then, I don't know if you guys are Grey's Anatomy or Shonda Rhimes fans, but The Year of Yes, hands down, one of my most favorite personal development books. There's not even really a whole lot of content. She just talks about her life and how she had always said no to everything, and then how she said yes, started saying yes. Her whole life turned upside down. But here's the thing. I don't like ever quote personal development in my posts. I never take a blurb of personal development and put it in my post. I listen very intently to personal development, and then those memories are sparked because of something that she says. The very beginning chapter of the Year of Yes, she starts off like painting a picture of Thanksgiving dinner. I'm pretty sure that's one of the chapters, and you can put yourself in that scene, and it's just so hilarious because she talks about her older sister, and that's exactly how my older sister is, and it really puts you in that scene. And then you can say, okay, how does this relate? Maybe not relate exactly to my life, but what story can I pull from a Thanksgiving dinner that kind of went funny? Or, what story can I pull from my life that would, tie back into my story? And then the one that I just recently listened to, like just finished last week, was On Fire by John O'Leary. It's a really, really good one about how he accidentally set himself on fire when he was 8. So definitely, again, one of those ones that's like, okay, not a whole lot of like, you can do it, go out there and crush your dreams, girl, but it's a lot of like them telling their story, which then in me sparks memories to tell my story. And then of course the tried and true Power of Vulnerability. That'll be my number one forever, by Brene Brown. And listening to that one, I love listening to that one, and I also love listening to Shonda. I'm a big Audible, just because I multitask. But listening to Brene Brown is really cool too, because she's like talking to an audience. So if you haven't had a chance, that one is really good and talks about vulnerabilities. So I think that's it. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Are we talking about grades down here?
I haven't seen too many questions come in, but if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. That was so good. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions specifically for Courtney, or let me turn?
Yeah, I do. Can I just speak it? Is that allowed? It's a lot to type. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I am a social worker. I love to talk. So my problem is that my posts are like, I could sit there and just type out like I'm journaling, but when I have such long posts, I know people, I hope that they read them, but like it's a struggle for me to condense enough to like get my point across, but still be impactful, if that makes sense. Do you have any tips on how to take what I'm trying to say, not write out like my whole life story, journal entry number 7 over here, and then like condense it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple tips for this. So one that goes kind of back to like micro storytelling, try to condense like the story inside the story. If that's not possible, I would say know your platform. So a lot of times I save, like I am still, I do Instagram and Facebook. I know that's kind of weird, but I still do both platforms, and I save my longer posts for Facebook. When I have like super long ones, I know that more people are likely to read those on Facebook than they would on Instagram. And then, shoot, what was the last thing I was gonna say? Oh, the last thing is if you have like a success partner or somebody, even just anybody on the team, if you just say, hey, would you mind looking over this post? How can I shorten it? I do that with my success partner all the time. I'm like, I feel like this can be shortened. Like, can you just read over it? Because you know how when you read something a million times, you're like, all right, I don't think it can be shortened any more. Like every part of it is good. And then she'll read it and be like, you said this sentence 4 times. I'm like, okay. Like, all right, cool. So it can be shortened. So definitely utilizing, or even, if you guys post on your team page, utilizing the team for sure to help shorten it.
Those are great tips. I mean, everyone knows I'm a woman of many words, so I would add to, like, if you do have a post that's longer, just when you're planning out your week, know that, because then you can kind of adjust. So, like, maybe a post before or after is kind of like a quick or witty little comment or humorous or something else too. So if I know, like, this is going to be a call to action and it's going to be long, like it just is what it is, then have others kind of bumping surrounding it that aren't like all novels, which I also
exactly. I was going to say that too. Like, if you do have a really long post, make sure the next one is not super long also, or the one before it. Like, plan ahead, make sure that you're not doing like all super long posts. Do
you see this question?
Yeah. Do you ever get uncomfortable sharing certain things on certain platforms? A lot. So I don't really get uncomfortable. I have a couple of my coworkers on Facebook for my event planner, but I actually talk about, like, I do enjoy my job. Like, I enjoy the event planning side of it. Like, I'm a natural, like, hostess. Like, I love hosting parties and I love throwing parties, and that's my job. Most times, I mean, sometimes it's like insurance meetings, but I do enjoy it. So I don't really ever say, like, I don't like my job on social media, just because it's keeping us stable right now and I can't really afford to get fired. So I don't know. This is kind of one of the reasons why I always say I officially started coaching in 2017, because for the first year and a half of coaching, I was so scared of what people were going to think of me. I was just paralyzed in fear. I had a really, really good friend from high school publicly blast me on social media, and like, it was bad. And so I was just paralyzed for a while, until I went to Summit, until I heard Ashley Molstead speak, and she gave that infamous speech of, why not you? If anybody can do this, if someone who is suicidal, if someone who is, climbing the corporate ladder feeling less than average, feeling like, like, if anyone could do this, why not you? And I think that goes a long way. Sorry that didn't really answer your question, but I don't anymore. I don't get uncomfortable anymore sharing on any platforms. I've never really felt uncomfortable either with, like, family members. I still have the family members that I was trying to help that didn't accept my help, that still make fun of me. I mean, at Thanksgiving, they'll be like, oh, no one can have dessert around Courtney. I'm like, okay, whatever. There's always going to be those people. So it's like, just live your life. Live your life. I saw a quote today, actually. Let me see if I can go to it real quick. It'll take like 2 seconds, hopefully. My internet will work. Going through life looking for approval from people rather than God is a full-time job that you ain't getting paid for, so quit that shit. So kind of got me today. Yeah, I have a couple military girls on the team too, and yeah, it's hard.
I mean, I would just add to that, just remember, you don't have to share your whole life on social media. I think that's a misconception within coaching, because we're all so open. But there's still, I would say, every coach, like, they're still showing you what they want you to see. And it doesn't mean they're not being authentic, but, like, you're not going to see me share about, like, my marriage necessarily. Like, I that's just stuff I don't get into. I'm not going to be like, oh, Nick and I got in a fight, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, there's lines and there's still boundaries that you follow. And if you can't share about certain things, like, try and tweak and figure out what you can share about, or share certain parts of what you can share about. So if you want to share about, you know, your marriage or your job, or that you don't love your job or something, you can find stuff to share, but you don't have to give every little detail. And it doesn't mean you're not being authentic. I mean, Courtney, you can like add if you agree, but you just have to find ways to be able to either share or don't. If there's some stuff that you don't want to share about, that's your choice. Like, you don't have to share every nitty-gritty detail about your life. I think that's just something that we assume everyone does.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I was going to suggest that about Emily Faber too. I'm like, she does a really good job of saying, like, I'm just not allowed to talk about it. So, I mean, she has 100,000 followers now. So it's like, how many people think that they know all of her life, but yet all she says is like, one, you don't see everything, and you shouldn't, honestly, you shouldn't see every single part of someone's life on social media. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that is a misconception of like, you have to be on your phone sharing every single little detail at all times. And I tell my team all the time, I'm like, nobody wants to join a Beachbody robot. Like, who are you outside of being a coach? Like, who are you, like, outside of the meals you ate that day? Like, I try to share as much event planner life as possible so that people do know I do work another job and I'm still successful at this. So yeah, and if it's something that you have people asking questions about, like I'm sure so many people are asking Emily Faber where Dylan was when he was deployed. She just, like I said, she just says, I can't talk about it. So even if it's just something like that, like I have I think I have 3 girls in the 9-week control freak test group. And they're like, I'm paralyzed in fear because I don't know what I can talk about. And I'm like, you can still talk. like you can't post your workout clips, no, but you can still say how they make you feel. Like, you can still say, oh, I got my workout done and I feel amazing. Like, no one's gonna punish you for that. Like, I know I had to talk to all 3 of them for sure.
We literally just had that same talk with our girls yesterday, and then I had one texting me today like, I'm terrified, should I not like post this? And I'm like, oh gosh, you guys. But I've been in 2 test groups myself, and I'm like, they're not going to kick you out. And they're like, no, Autumn kicked people out. And I'm like, it is Autumn. Yeah, you might just just to be safe. Yeah, totally. But does anyone else have any other questions? This has been so good. I'm going to have to go back. I like missed a little bit in the middle, but I appreciate like you sharing examples, and that's so good. And I think it just shows the difference between just saying something and telling it. Like, that makes the difference between a good coach and a really, really great coach. So I appreciate the examples that you gave, and just for you being on and sharing with us. And I know tons of girls are going to want to catch this recording too. So
for sure. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Does anyone else have any questions? Or those were some good questions that you guys dropped for her too, though. So cool. Well, do you have anything else you want to add, Courtney, or close with, or?
I mean, not really. I mean, even just like I kind of said, like, even if you think that you don't have a story, even if you think that, you know, you won't be successful at this because you don't have this insane transformation. Yes, results are a huge part of it, but that wasn't part of my story. I came into this probably the most fit that I've ever been, and just I needed the mental health work. And so just knowing that there are all kinds of women that are successful, there is no secret to success, you guys. That is kind of one of the things that I love most. And like Morgan said, we met on this Facebook group, the Roundtable, of just people all sharing with each other of what helps them be successful. And so just always know that you can reach out to each other, you can lean on each other, and this is really the best part about Beachbody is the community. And I know that sounds so cliche, but we all have each other for a reason. So anyways, just go out there, give a shit what other people think, and do your thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to message me that quote because that's going in the team page like tomorrow.
Yes,
but thank you
will
so
do.
much for coming on. We appreciate you sharing with us, and congratulations to your team. You guys are crushing it this year, so good job on that. And
Thanks.
yeah, I think that's all we got for the night. So thanks for everyone who did get on, and we'll get the recording up in the page. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night and an awesome weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.